welcome to our lovely future humans. And to those who are new, we're all a bunch of functional inner child adults. And today I have my lovely human hat alongside our 5D mystic Maria for our late IHP show. My human hat, I've been enjoying it. And so I'm going to continue to let you all in on the fun fact that people who think themselves righteous, they're insecure, two-faced cowards. I was going to use hypocrites because we've been talking about that, but I chose to change it up a little bit so you could, understand why they're hypocrites, two-faced, and cowards. When someone says that they are not really able to live life because life is so hard, because, the world is so mean and there's all this suffering stuff going on, I just think of teenagers that I met when I was a teenager. And then I think that divinity only descends upon those who have common sense, open-hearted, intelligent, and emotionally mature minds. And then I think of how many instead are using the word divinity, God, source, Akash, and instead they're like not in any way, shape, or form a clear channel because they don't own their child parts. Because if you don't own your sense of self and therefore you don't own the nervous system and you don't therefore know how to self-regulate, okay, so when you're non-traumatized, you're emotionally mature and you're mentally mature. So you don't do self-righteous, you do humility. Okay? And so the cowards, they are not the brave ones like those of us who, well, I got lucky because I'm self-led. Then others will have gotten, they're securely attached and are self-led. So the brave ones are those who are functional child adults, and we're brave because we didn't leave our inner child to die. We also are brave because we are not leaving our nervous system in this survival mode, and so we work with the emotions that come up, fear, the anger, and the sadness. And we don't actually point a finger, shame, blame, fault, revenge, AI, or the whole political stuff that goes on. We don't point a finger and say those people. No, because we know who those cowards are for and who those two-faced hypocrites are for. So it's very clear who they're for the unhealthy minds that are also insecure minds. Non-bilaterally integrated brain people are unhealthy. They actually allow themselves to let mediocre behavior, also self-righteous behavior, and just the fact that their eating style, their drinking style, their fucking style, their thinking style, the fact that they don't know how to use their... Okay, so again, cowards are two-faced because that's the part of where they're not really their true self. So please don't hold it against them. Their 0-8-year-old is the emotional mature level, but they've chosen that they don't want to go and become the real version of themselves because they don't believe in the modern day therapist, and actually their self-righteous ways keep them in a brain that is obtuse. And while I may seem that I'm an obtuse person, the difference is I'm a person who owns my sense of self, so I have integrity of Maria is a certain way, but I will also be subjectively aware that I can be wrong. Okay, because that's where I'm going to read you a couple of things just so you can understand why they're two-faced hypocrites, adaptive child part people. They can be healed though, if they choose to take discipline with a good therapist seriously and wait until they're ready to then work with spiritual and personal growth, and then they're really going to enlighten as the ascension energies are bountiful and amazing. That's also why we're future humans, by the way, the 5D collective, because 3D, 4D doesn't know we're already here. So when you look at certain passages, this is on Reddit, by the way, apparently the ESV Global Study Bible, Matthew Henry, and Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown, they all interpret Solomon as advising against the self-righteous zeal that births legalism and judgmental attitudes, with overly wise, quote-unquote, referring to when you assume you know more about God's law than you really do. It's the problem with the people who consider themselves divinity and that they're right and that there's evil energies and entities and vampires. So they're actually there's two things I can tell you about 3D 4D. Number one, they don't own their embodied brain, and so sensations, images, behaviors, affects, meanings, emotions, all of it overwhelms them. Number two, their frontal lobes are flopped down. They're using their amygdala and they're in a defense mode, and so the protective body is actually under stress, the distress. So it's sympathetic, dorsal vagal sympathetic, so that's why they also go offline, and This is unfortunate business. But there's good news, because they can go and get window of tolerance expanded to window welcome with Pat Ogden and a bunch of good therapists. So there's a way for anyone to take care of their inner world so that they can then become an integrated brain. And as they become that, from my 5D body type is what I call the restorative embodiment, you don't actually get overwhelmed by any of downloads, channeling, any of dreams, which are astral travel. When you're traveling different dimensions, I'm a multidimensional being for the mystic component, and intellectually as a human you love to learn all things because you're curious of intellect, and therefore you spot the good intellectuals, the good scientists. I'm a pseudoscience and I do fuck up and forget the data sometimes, remember that, but I make fun of the pseudo intellectuals, although we are thankful, because again, God knows everything, and so does cosmic karmic balancing. That's why I'm putting my human hat, because with God in the mix, when I talk to God, he's like, Maria, just stop judging your brothers and sisters of human suffering, a waste of your fucking time. You and Buddha are making fun of each other. You can let it go. Jesus is proud. You can keep walking. You forgive. That's great. And so, with that, then I have over here Peter Levine with the bird and the broken wing and going towards a cat. And so the scientists explain why I should understand how emotionally immature people, they're biologically rude, not on purpose. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to be Maria the human today, and I don't want to. Yes, God, I'm turning the cheek. Yes, Peter Levine, I got it. They're not drama kings and queens for real, or stress addicts of their distress, or fantasy stages, but I really don't want to actually have to be in that spot. I'm trying to let the other people who are human like me know about, yeah, we know two-faced cowards, what they do. Nothing. They're weak, they're insecure, they're immature. If you look away, their confidence gets eroded. They apparently take everything personally, and then they don't even keep their promises, and they don't know how to walk a walk and talk a talk, because they don't have mental health in the forefront. They just like to use words. They did, then they'd take ownership of their mind and become healthy minds, which means you think healthy thoughts and you also feel healthy feelings. And you don't blame Lucifer, monster, for that, which is negative self-talk, because scientists explain it. You also don't blame Lucifer, monsters, for that, which is something that can be healed when there's fragmented states of self, and that neuroscientists explain. So when people say, ha ha ha, neuroscience, everyone has something to believe in, no, that's not a belief. Belief is about something that I can't prove to you. Science has quantitative data analysis, and they're working on it, the neuroscientists. So mystics and spiritual bypassers don't believe in sciences, because somehow the two-faced cowards in their brains, no, it's not that. It's that their body, when it gets into protective mode, they make up stories. Nah, it's not. It's more in-depth than that, but I'm not going to talk about the ones who are two-faced and cowards, because 3D, 4D has a reason for continuing to be. It's called people who don't take modern-day therapy seriously. They don't want to heal themselves, and so we can't make them. You can't make somebody love themselves first. You can't make someone be brave and go and get their emotional body back online. And you can't talk sense to a person who's about to marry the wrong person, because really, you can't talk sense to anyone. You can't talk sense to me. I'm an ego too, don't you see? So when people choose to not hear things, I hear all, because my mother taught me better. But also because as a self-agent who's self-led, who loves to learn, I said, hey, teacher, I have a question for you Friday afternoon. Do we have homework? Boo. I didn't care about the boos, because I don't do mediocre, ignorant, two-faced bastards, cowards who don't do anything except for waste my time. So as a grown-up, luckily, I don't have to waste my time with two-faced cowards, because, healthy self-worth people. It's like, oh gosh, it's not about decency. So when you meet boundaryless people, they're on the anxious side of terror reels, not healthy boundary people. On the other side, we got an avoidant, walled off. The walled off are better because they don't get clingy. They just leave you alone and you never hear from them again. These ones over here, well, if you reassure them enough, they get basically manageable. And that's it. You don't actually kick anyone out of the herd, because Manny, Diego, and Sid, this Maria's human hat again, it's not nice to kick weak people out of the herd. You just learn they're 5 Cusco hands, and they're really not emotionally immature people. They're 0-8-year-old versions of themselves. They just want to be loved. They don't want to do the work. For the ones who are empowered, it's not a big deal. We're not tired. We know differentiation of the self. We know how to use our prefrontal, or at least I do. That's why mindfulness mindset is consistently great every day. you get to put into practice when someone irritates your butthole, when you get sad for a little girl who's, basically going to be traumatized for real for the rest of her life, and you wonder, is it going to turn out to be good, or is it going to turn out to be something that I'll be able to understand? Because obviously, really, the body keeps the score. So people who are in their brain self-righteous and they think they can talk about your body, they can't talk about your body. I know I'm not trying to talk about your body. I'm just saying I don't hang out with two-faced cowards. And if I do, it's because I learned their hands. And usually they're very meaningless, meaning that they don't have that much pizzazz. As I'm 45, so they get older and they stagnate. My facade friend has become very sensitive. I can't even call him an asshole anymore, and he's still the same selfish asshole. But he has attachment wounds he didn't heal, so, what are you going to do? So, yeah, you put up with people. I don't put up. It's kind of like Seinfeld. He has a skit in one of his comedic acts where he's like, why would you make new friends? They're all going to be the same. So it's true. We have healthy self-worth, empowered people. They're the real deal. And then we have our two-faced cowards. And the world, it is full of still a lot of unhealthy minds, unhealthy, insecure minds. They seem to lead. They're not leading because, again, I'm not bigger than God. God is the big, big thing, and divinity and source, and they always come out. Cosmic karmic balancing, I'm telling you. Today I'm wearing my human hat. So I'm letting you know with an equanimous, discerning, loving tone, like God's tone to me, that I still judge human suffering a waste of my fucking time. But as Buddha and I have a thing, it's because I spot it, and he says, haha, you spotted. And I say, haha, to you, you sat under a tree. They're not using your stuff well because they're not doing the final step, which is to get themselves to therapy. And he's like, okay, fine, whatever. Let's bring in Jesus. Jesus, what do you think? Jesus says, Maria, mind your own business. Keep walking. You did what you can, and that's why self-righteous. We don't do, I know better than you what to do with your life. You do what you want to do with your life. As long as you're following the laws, that's all that matters. People watch movies that are bullshit, very uninteresting. Mean Girls, Hangover, people who laugh at people who are very, very, very unhealthy and very insecure. It's not really threatening to meet mediocre, jealous cowards who are backstabbers, liars, and betrayers, because they don't do anything different than the adolescents I met. Which is why God kept me away from people, and he still does, I'm sure of it, because I don't want to stare anybody down who doesn't have self-empowered, enlightening brain, because I know my stare, well, actually, wait, we're going to get to a story in a minute, but my stare is one of a prefrontal cortex. So Bethany Brown and Ruth Lanius explained when you're a healthy, self-worth, somatic empath, even though I don't remember what words they use, but basically, when I look in anyone's eyes, because I have no attachment flares or wounds or any of that, because I'm Maria, I have insecurities, I have questions. Yes, so people will be like, but they are insecure. Fine, I have insecurities, but they're not really insecurities. It's more of I ask. So I just want to understand, when you look in my eyes, am I comfortable or not? Because I really need to know so I can try to not stare at you if I make you uncomfortable, as I really don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But yes, I have things that I feel like I don't know how to do, so I feel stupid. That's what I mean by insecure. But then I know, we're all different. But that's my level of insecurity. So I can cry and let it out, and then I can have a good time. I don't get angry. I get frustrated and irritated. So the people who think they are self-righteous, this I'm right all the time. Okay, so here is where I'm continuing with this Ecclesiastes, whatever, 2.14, 2:14 passage, where the quote is about, be humble, you barely know wisdom, so don't be wise in your own eyes. Every man is a fool, and the only really important difference between us is whose fool we are. Even though I don't agree, because I'm not a fool to everyone, but sure, whatever, I can play along with this. And so the breakdown of this quote is that the core message is the book of Ecclesiastes often reflects on the limitations of human wisdom, which I agree with, the prevalence of folly and the inherent foolishness of humanity. I'm going to say there's not a prevalence of folly. However, the insecure, two-faced cowards do tend to not want to go heal their childhood trauma or any of their trauma with someone like Patrick Tian, a good therapist. So there are unhealthy, insecure minds, yes. But would I say that it's the prevalence? No, I don't. That's my Achilles heel, is I'm always going to believe in you being able to become the true version, because there's plenty of smart therapists out there who are proving it, tangibly speaking. And then there's mystics and spiritual ones who say after you're done with that, you can continue spiritual and personal growth and be a empowered human being who, navigating with an integrated brain and a restorative embodiment, you can be a safe haven secure base to your brothers and sisters and actually teach them true compassion, because you don't have any expectations. They don't have to have the same true compassion. They don't have to unconditionally love you with flaws and imperfections. As like my facade friend, they can be bastard assholes. You'll still love them, just knowing that they're cowards, and you don't actually tell them that they're cowards anymore, because they will take it personally. But you will know of their little inner world having been basically forgotten, because that's what my friend did. Instead of getting themselves somewhere better, they chose to, what was the word that Sadhguru used? Yes, they chose to settle. In fact, when I told my friend about a story, and it's not just a story, about our future, I said, you're going to get the life you wanted, you know? And I told him what his life is going to be. And he's like, yep, that's me. I'm like, I know that's you, because I'm a mystic, and it's the energetic imprint that told me. And it's not funny that my friend actually compromised and settled, because the thing is, he gave up on himself. And that's what I know. And you know how you know when people are still wounded? When they only have one friend that cares for them for real, then family, and then only one other human being. Isolation is an indication, a very big one too, of people who don't have their body connected. So that's not actually something I look at and say, wow, that's amazing. And when someone says, I read a room and I'm a mystic and I stay home because of it, I see. So you didn't notice that you're still very sensitive to being around people. And I did notice that I grew more aware of the room. And I asked Dr. Dan Osillo, so how do I handle this, Dr. Dan? It was one of my courses with him, without mentioning the mystic thing. He's like, Maria, he said, I think you're not differentiating enough. And I said, you know what? In my head, I said, okay, got it. Because I know what he's talking about. Because I own the sense of self. And I've seen blank stares with this. This is why, if it's a blank stare, please, it means you own all your child parts for real and secure attachment. So not just the words. Like, all my child parts, they're all here. That's why when I saw that little girl with her crying, I'm like, wow, I'm crying with you, but I know that I'm lucky and you're not. And then I'm wondering if someone's going to be able to help you so that you can turn what just happened to you, which is the most horrible shit ever. I can't even begin to imagine. Like, I have nothing to say except for I hope there's grown-ups and people around you who maybe can help you stay open-hearted towards the future. And I will meet you maybe, because I'm 45 and this was an 8-year-old, and maybe you will be not as, because I can't, have you ever seen the story of Malevolent? The one where they tell you about her story. So people who don't like to understand this, they dehumanize human beings. I don't dehumanize human beings. The unhealthy, insecure minds are very, very, I know exactly who they are. I don't play God, though. I don't do the self-righteous thing. It's exactly why he taught me not to play the know-it-all. That's why I'm bringing my human hat today, because it's like, okay, God, I'm ready to share some shit. And I'm not suffering it, because I don't suffer morons. And I also know you always win, so I don't have to make it into a big deal. But a self-righteous person thinks their beliefs and morals are better than everyone's else. If you're quite sure the charity of others pales in comparison with yours, you might be self-righteous. This is the meaning from a vocabulary. So they believe that they can do no wrong. Self-righteous people often adopt a judgmental stance towards others. This attitude fuels their sense of moral superiority and justifies their criticisms. They believe their way is the only correct way, fostering a sense of superiority. And so any human being on the face of this planet, mystic, spiritual, or mindful, that doesn't know humility will actually have aspects of these. I have a tone of sense of I'm sure of what I speak, yes. And then I also have a tone of I'm sharing this way, okay? But I will not in any way, shape, or form think I'm right and you're wrong, because I grew out of it. Okay, so black and white thinking people who are adaptive child part people who are not flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable, they don't grow up. And so when I meet them, the ones who think themselves self-righteous, they're insecure, two-faced cowards. They're the same unhealthy, insecure minds who want to follow the other human beings out there who are just as mediocre, ignorant human beings, and they don't know that all of our human 8 billion and growing cherishable beliefs all can be falsifiable. So I know that at IHP, I'm going to do everything I can to have emotionally, mentally, and physically intelligent people. And what two-faced cowards do, they like to know, they don't know themselves. And so I do my best to make sure that all of that, which is a healthy self-worth conversation, which is we don't have right, we don't have wrong. We don't have yes, we don't have no. No, we have yes and no. We know how to speak it in the absence of being rude to people. And when we are rude, I have plenty of tones with my mother, my twin, and in that family dynamic, we work on it. Why? Because it's an honor to be able to not be a hypocrite. It's also an honor to be able to master that which is your nervous system. Equanimous is very empowering, and irritation doesn't need to be anywhere, because again, irritability is a fool's. It's a fool's little Kali right here. Shiva, Krishna, Lila, come on in. So when people want to justify, meaning allow themselves to get all self-righteous, they get offline. So they become fools, which is why my facade friend, when I forgave him, I said, look, dude, what do you think? That friends abandoning each other? I don't abandon. I'm not a coward. And he said, I don't know how you do it. I said, what? Be a friend? As friends aren't going to hold, and he taught me how to repair splinters and ruptures. Although, if I went back in time, I'd still do the same thing. Because when you go back in time, you will know, consciously speaking, why you made the choice you made. So when people say, do you have anything you regret? I always think of the one person who would say, you have to have one. Okay, I hope to never find myself in that situation. But I thought of it, and there's only one, and that's it. Because the reality is, once I said it, I'm like, oh, you're upset. You didn't really mean it, but now you can't take it back. Yeah, but I meant it. So, but if I were asked, I would say, yeah, I have one thing. So the people who are two-faced cowards and hypocrites, they don't like those of us who are completely transparent. We know we can make mistakes. We know that all can make mistakes. They don't like to hear it, so I don't actually label anyone. If they will have killed, I don't judge them. And actually, there's a person who's afraid of me because I told him that. And I said, I'm not God. I don't judge. I made a promise. You must not know what promises are, because obviously you don't understand what forgive, turn the other cheek. Blessed are those who believe without seeing. And the fact that you're not God and you're not it. So yeah, this is the common sense of a mystic spiritual. Just trying to let you know the human part is very important, because I'm bringing the human elements, the spiritual and spirituality elements. So never form an opinion on anyone. How they are in this moment is all that matters. Thank you, Sadhguru. I always hope for the ones who are two-faced cowards, hypocrites, and unhealthy in their mind and in their hearts, that they can get themselves to someone like Pat Ogden, Dr. Daniel Siegel, Dr. Daniel Fox. And when I look to my past, I can tell you that even though I know there's a bunch of people who think that I think I'm right, no, I don't think I'm right. I know where I am right, which is to use humility, due to the fact that I have a heart, you have a heart, and I've never lived one day in your body. So that's called common sense. And then attachment trauma education proves it to me, tangibly speaking. And then for spirituality, the real ones, they also talk to us about compassion. The pretenders, they talk about why they're the best of the best of the best at everything. And really, it's amazing to see teenagers who are wearing cloaks, because that's their biggest age. That's what they are. I saw them when I was a teenager. That's why I'm not impressed by the two-faced cowards. And I really don't like to be around them. But sometimes they like to be around me. So when that happens, I just try to be as polite as can be. And then I do remember that I am gifted with this miracle called life. And so 24 hours is all we got. We get to hang out with all people, because why not? Again, Ice Age Manny Diego, I can be completely annoying to someone, right? So that's why I can be an irritable butthole. You can be an irritable butthole. But at the end of the day, by the way, I know that everything's going to be okay. So if you're wondering how our human species is going to be, they're going to be okay. And I've been telling this to a bunch of people for a bunch of years now. And I continue to be very, very much aware of why we're going to be okay. And it's called science and spirituality come together. And the kingdom of God, like Jesus shared, is within you. And the kingdom of God, like the sciences people have shared, is within every person who owns their sense of self, navigates their self-regulating nervous system, is able to be their name. And then they're able to know all their child parts. And thanks to self-regulation and having healthy self-soothing, they don't do maladaptive patterns of behavior, inner critic, outer critic, drinking, drugging, fucking, unhealthy self-soothing. So when you're stressed and when you're upset and whatever, you don't use unhealthy stuff. You use that which is healthy. And that's why moderation is always what you're going to notice. And the timbre of truth is also what the emotionally mature people notice. The two-faced cowards, I'm still working with my irritation. So I'm trying to share it openly with all of you. That's why the human hat. And God is always in my ear reminding me not to judge them. Again, not to judge them, a waste of my fucking time. And then I do remember I get to keep practicing that which I preach: restorative embodiment, self-awareness, accountability, regulation, functional child adulthood, not playing the know-it-all. So trying to do the best that I can to not be a self-righteous in any way, shape, or form. And that's why I keep people around me to tell me, say, okay, make sure you let me know if I'm in your space. I don't want to be in your space, and I'm not right and you're not wrong. It's tomato, tomato, it's both. So I like to be a creative 3-year-old, and the ones who don't like it, that's okay, because that's exactly the ones who don't hang out with us. So we get to hang out with the ones who like to talk with all the words, and then we just like to tango and have fun. And we're like, oh my God, look, they're still using the blasphemy thing. Is that really a thing still? I mean, I know that they think we're dumb, but we're not really dumb. We just don't want to, we don't need those big words. There's no monsters anymore. Like, there's just, well, 4D's still living them. It's okay. Gargamel, have fun. The Smurfs are going to come get you with the Care Bears. There's a little cloud over here. You can tune into some of the other episodes if you want to know what I'm talking about. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.